sick and isn't here. He'll be better, and to the extent there's interest, I'm sure we could arrange a large conference call or something like that. But let me take you through the high points because it's a very important piece of work that he's done. Since he's not here, I'm going to change the order of his slides. You'll remember that the OECD put out a report and tried to objectively quantify the harm done, the value of counterfeiting and piracy. Now, in their report, which was initially released in 2008, they only looked at the value of international trade. They identified three other areas where they were sure that if they did study, they would find and could quantify the value of counterfeiting and piracy. Those are domestic production, digital piracy, and then broader economic effects, which they identified. And so Damien started out with a study on the broader economy-wide effects and only looking at the G20. And you'll see that data as we move into this study. On those, he only looked at losses of tax revenues, welfare spending, the costs of crime, and impact on FDI flows. On digital piracy, we've only looked at software, music, and film, leaving aside books, which actually, in the time since Patrice did the terror study, is a major issue for the book publishers. We have not looked at video games, computer games, newspapers, magazines, or television at all in the context of this study. OECD initially estimated international trade, as you will recall, at $200 billion, and then a year later updated it to $250 billion, looking at more recent data, custom seizures. That data has been updated again to bring it forward in the context of this report. And quite honestly, we have to thank OECD, who shared with us their methodologies and formulas so that this report could be as objective and authoritative as possible. Were used by Frontier in this report. Let me go to his first slide. Okay, so stuff we all know. I'll go quickly. One, underground, hard to get good data. What did he do? He built on established OECD approach and methodology, in fact, the precise formulas that the OECD came up with. Controversy over substitution rates. Patrice talked about this for a moment. There are no in this report, he only looks at value, not losses to business, because then you get into all sorts of arguments. The arguments aren't necessary. Let's start out by trying to determine what's the value of this enterprise. You know, Jeff said, BASCAP likes to invest in these things. We like to invest in them because the goal is over time to really focus on individual issues within reports so that the numbers that come out are more and more dependable, are subject to criticism, and therefore can be updated, reviewed, and done again. And that's what this report is all about. In studies that we have all read, there are a multitude of approaches and assumptions varying by country and by sector. Frontier moved to get rid of that and take a consistent approach to measurement. And certainly, as difficult as it is analyzing hard good piracy, analyzing digital piracy is much harder than that. And what Frontier has put in is a consistent framework to that approach. And this is the bottom line. And I think do we have copies of the study? There are copies outside, and you should take one. And you should read it, because as I say, it's well over a year of work that's gone into this. In terms, and in each each of these, what Damien did was create a range of values, once again, because it's impossible to pinpoint any precise values, but using very, very conservative assumptions. For instance, the actual growth rate in custom seizures, 22%. In order to come up with these figures and extend them, Damien cut that in half and said, no, it's not 22%. It's a mid-teen number, in order to just make them very, very conservative. The domestic number is derived from OECD formulas based on the international number. The digitally pirated number is really the first truly analytical look at the total scale of digital piracy in just those three industries, not the four that I mentioned, four others. The broader economic effects are only for the G20 nations. We haven't had the time or the wherewithal yet to extend those globally, and the employment losses are only for the G20 nations. Where this takes us, extended out to 2015, is a value for counterfeiting and piracy, which is well in excess of $1 trillion a year. It's an astounding number. It's one that deserves to be paid attention to be challenged, if challenges should be made, for the study to be done again by others, finding errors in the first study, do another study and another. But to the extent we can put out objective, authoritative information to governments so that they understand and can transmit to their citizens the real harm and risk of this marketplace, our hope is that more attention will be put to this area by government, and that we can begin to view the light at the end of the tunnel as something other than an oncoming train. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thanks, David. We have time for one more speaker, Dr. Karsten Fink from WIPO. I'm going to try to talk and IT at the same time to save seconds. So if you please come on up. Do I have? You know what? Lunch afterwards. It's not like there's another session coming in here. I told him to take his time because none of you were in a hurry for lunch. So I figured that's okay.